These are very formal meetings, by the way.
I'm wearing Mrs. Roper's poncho.
That's what I'm going to refer to as. Mrs. Roper, do you have anything you'd like to add? All right. Let's call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all for braving the elements this evening. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Mr. Merrick, there's a motion by Councilmember Henry. Are you taking notes? Yeah. There's a motion by Councilmember Henry and a second by Councilmember Johnson to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Resident comments and questions. I think you guys are here for student stuff, correct? You know what I think you should probably do is come on up and introduce yourself and let us know what your class is and what you're looking to accomplish today. And please don't worry about the camera looking at you. Yeah, we're not 100% sure it's working because Brent put it on, but just give us a quick idea of what you're doing and what brings you here.
So my name's Steven Senden. We're from Chaska, Minnesota. I'm here because I have an assignment from my Intro to the City class at Mankato, MSU, to attend, basically pay attention to how things are run.
And pay attention.
Where people are sitting, the room's layout, like what issues are considered important.
You picked a dandy.
Yeah, stuff
And
like
who's your
that.
professor
What
for that
course
class?
is this for at Mankato?
Intro to the City. It's
Okay.
Urban and Regional Studies class. It's taught by Miriam Porter. She lives here in.
Oh, yeah, she does. That's right. So she'll know exactly what you're talking about. Do you know Miriam?
Yeah.
Oh, she's fantastic. She's a lot smarter than I
I
am.
told him to petition for extra credit for coming to Carver City Council.
That.
Maybe don't
Or
mention the
she's
part
going to
about
a great
Chaska being
college.
canceled
Yeah,
tonight.
don't mention the part about.
He's going to a great college.
I went there also.
It's no St. Cloud State.
That's right, it's not.
That's not to bring up anything. They're both still state universities. But I went to UMD. All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If we can be of any help, let us know.
Thanks.
We're going to jump right into Representative Jim Nash of District 47A. Come on up, my friend, and introduce yourself and tell us some stuff. I don't mean to make you feel important or anything, but you're almost all we have on here.
Wow.
I know.
Does that mean I have to fill the entire meeting?
Well, that could be 10 minutes or an
Okay.
hour. It's up to you.
That's a low bar. Let's not stay here too long. Well,
I hear you, brother.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thanks for having me in. Jim Nash, State Representative, District 47A. I'm glad to be here to talk about a couple of different things, but then also to maybe answer some questions that you might have. You know, one of the things that I know from going to city councils and meeting with folks across the district is that transportation is a huge issue. And I was talking with your city administrator just before we came on air about the amount that you guys have gotten in what we're calling the Small Cities Fund. That started 3 years ago when I was in my freshman term, and then we renewed the second year, or the first year of my second term. And you guys get about $40,000 from the state. And our goal that I and a good number of my colleagues have led to get memorialized into law is small cities' roads wear out at the same rate that big cities' roads wear out. So if you drive on the roads in Waconia, they wear out just like they do here. But you guys don't get what's called MSA dollars because you're below 5,000 population. So our idea was that your tax dollars come out of here and head to St. Paul, and that we're trying to get some sent back because you have crack seal and seal coat, and I believe the administrator told me that you did a partial spend on a roundabout.
There was some turn lane.
Wow. Hope they didn't get that on camera.
He's throwing stuff.
It's actually working, I think. It's turn lanes at 6th Street and Jonathan Carver Parkway, a county project that we used the small cities funding for, which was very helpful.
So the goal there is to put money back into your transportation funds that you can do pretty much whatever you want with. We didn't restrict it at all. And I think your first payment was 20 and you get a second half settlement of 20. So that if you have projects that you have a matching piece for, or you just want to undertake it all on your own, you've got some cash to do that with. We have worked to get that put into law as a programmatic thing, and I think we're going to be very successful in that. And we're planning to fund that as a long-term sustainable piece of funding from the sales tax on motor vehicle parts. So if you go and you have your car fixed, there's some taxes that go along with that. We're going to take a piece of that and put it into funding things like the small cities. And for those folks who watch that are also in townships, this past year we put money in for townships as well because, no surprise, their roads wear down too, and they pay taxes as well. Some of the other stuff that we hear, and then I hear quite a bit, is that there's some angst with the way the Met Council may have a little bit of overreach here and there, and a lot of folks aren't always thrilled with the light rail. A decision was made 3.5, almost 4 years ago to not fund Southwest Light Rail. And this speaks to the virtue of sitting in a deer stand sometimes. I had a slow day in the deer woods, and I thought, well, the state's not going to be paying for Southwest Light Rail, but we are on the hook if and when they build it now for maintenance and operations. So I drafted a bill that said we're not going to be responsible because we didn't build it. And the example that I would use is if Councilmember Henry buys a brand new Ferrari and drives over to the mayor's house and hands him a bill for oil changes and tires and brakes, that the mayor would probably have some choice words, and it would ultimately result in him saying no because he didn't buy it, therefore he shouldn't have to maintain it. And that's the premise of the bill. We got that passed into law last year, and that saved the taxpayers about $58 million. Similarly, I wrote a bill and was joined by my friends to lead an effort to pare back the eminent domain fee schedule for Met Council. I think about 12 years ago, they had a bill that was drafted that allowed them to use eminent domain at a lower payout schedule than would MnDOT or the city of Carver or Carver County, and that made it very difficult for the landowners that they may do condemnation on. And I'm not a big fan of eminent domain. I don't think any of us really are. It's a tool that gets used, but the landowner should be compensated fairly for that. So we changed that law as well. Some of the other things that we did are, I think you'd look and say it's a very historic tax bill from last year. And one of the things that we're going to be doing in the next few weeks is we have to figure out tax conformity at the state level based on what happened at the federal level with what most people are saying is the most significant tax reform in the last 30 years. So our goal is to make sure that residents of Carver don't get harmed by Minnesota's conformity efforts. And either we get it right or we could get it really, really wrong. So we're being very deliberative in how do we go about. So there may be a series of tax conformity bills that you see run through the House in the coming weeks. I know Chairman Davids is working very hard on that to make sure that business owners and residents alike are taken care of and made whole so that you can maximize the most out of the federal tax bill. I will say that I know Senator Jensen was here recently to talk about your concerns and needs for stabilizing your levy. And as I had said to your administrator, we had looked at that in the past and we were told that that was not something that could be bonded, but I'm happy to be creative in finding monies wherever we could. I'm not sure where that is, but I'm happy to do it. And if you all wanted to come down and work with me on that at the Capitol and Senator Jensen, I know that's something that we're happy to try, but the law is fairly specific as to what's bondable and what's not. So, there may be other things that we could do. And I had mentioned to the administrator and Mr. Mayor, you can maybe help out if there's a PFA project that you might be working on. We're talking about increasing the PFA funding. So if you're doing a water tower or some other thing that you're already putting stuff into your CIP plan for, we might be able to fund the PFA and get money for you there, and you can take the money that you've accrued in the CIP to do something else with. I'm not sure if that's something that you've done, but I'm willing to be creative and push for that. You're all looking at me as a semi-glazed look, so that's a great example of me to slow down and let you ask questions. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions, comments?
Currently none.
That many.
Yep. Keep up the good work.
He's a gun guy.
I am.
Mark? Pancho Villa? Do you have any questions?
No, thank you for bringing up the levy stuff that we talked about earlier.
But
I do. In your opinion, do you think at any point in this legislative session that anyone is going to go across the aisle? Or do you believe that this is a two-party system, that we have the numbers, this is what we're going to do, and this is what it's going to be?
it's a great question, Mr. Mayor. I will say this. I was in Representative John Lesch's office today for about 45 minutes talking about a couple different things that we're going to be working on together. And I would say that the stuff that you see on the newspapers or on TV isn't everything that we do, and that you might be surprised that there's more bipartisan effort that we undertake on a daily basis. But because it's really juicy TV, you only see the stuff that is pretty partisan.
You know what, I'm going to challenge you on that, because I get your Twitter feed, and I read your Twitter, and it sounds like Trump, left, right, straight ahead. That's not a put down, that's your Twitter feed. But my point being is that, so I have a place in St. Paul, and I watch what goes on in an urban setting, and I watch what goes on out here, and it's very different. And the approaches are different. And I'm just, it's not me casting stones, it's asking a question. I'm going to ask Democrats the same question every time I see them. I'm going to be at the legislature a little bit more this year. How can I think we all agree that, say, school violence is bad. We finally agree on something. But we're utilizing that in a platform to cast stones at the enemy of Republican versus Democrat. And I'm wondering if there's a way that we can make even just a conscious effort to say on camera that, yes, I will, and not necessarily you, I'm putting you on the spot, but you're here. So yeah, it's not as antagonistic behind the scenes, but what we see is Twitter accounts, we see the news, and we see the governor's an idiot. We see we're not going to support the governor in any way, shape, or form. I can tell you that for purposes of the Met Council that you bring up, I'm not for elected officials being representatives to the Met Council. A, I think it's a conflict of interest, and B, there's a lot of elected officials I don't want representing my region. So,
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I could, 2 Fridays ago, I was on the TV show Almanac, and the Friday before that, I was on a TV show called Your Legislators.
yep,
Not sure if you watched either of those,
Almanac.
but on Almanac, I think you saw that I didn't sound a thing like what you may have construed from my Twitter feed to be bashing anybody. I said I'm very happy to work on mental health issues, school safety issues, and finding a way to put sworn peace officers into the classroom. None of those things are bombastic at all, and I would say that I go out of my way to make sure that we're addressing things in ways that we can be constructive and get it done. You know, I'm very fiscally hawkish down at the Capitol, but I'm happy to spend anything that we can to improve the physical safety around buildings for schools, and I'm actually pushing many people in my own caucus to vote to put sworn peace officers, and I'm doing it with the help of many DFL members. The week prior to that, I was on Your Legislators, and it's not as well viewed as Almanac, but in the Your Legislators, I was with Representative Carlos Mariani, and Carlos Mariani is, very, very much a non-Republican. He's a fairly downtown left-leaning DFLer, and we agreed on a lot of things. And we agreed that we need to address the mental health issues that are causing some of these issues in our society. And, you know, I would point out that I'm happy to work with folks, and I worked very hard to also help the Carver County mental health stabilization by going through both Ridgeview and the county. So, you know, again, my Twitter feed isn't necessarily representative of everything that I do, similar to the fact that your Twitter feed isn't representative of everything you do. They're snapshots. So I would just say that, you know, there's more to both me and I'm sure you than just a Twitter feed.
There's not much more to me. But, so let me ask you a question. You said that you're 4 sworn peace officers, and while I agree that that's a great soundbite, how do you propose to pay for that? Or are we not to that point?
We have a couple different things to do there. We can increase the local school district's levy cap for public safety. They each have, I think, $37. Each kid has had $37 associated with school safety. We're talking about...
So the school could increase the levy on the taxpayers?
Correct.
Okay.
And in addition to that, we're looking at doing a general appropriation to help schools by creating a grant fund to pay for some of those. And, you know, school resource officer is about $45,000 here in Carver County. I talked with the sheriff, and the numbers vary based on who it is that's doing the work. But I'm very happy to push for as much as I possibly can, and I'm talking in the bill that I'm drafting and have spoken with the public safety folks and the speaker that we're talking millions of dollars.
Okay.
So along with another issue of physical security improvements, that would also be a grant of millions of dollars.
Okay. Are you pushing for or in favor of elected officials as Met Council representatives?
Well, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, the Twin Cities MPO, or as you know it, the Met Council, is the
Yep.
only MPO in the entire country that does not have elected officials that serve on it. Many of the MPOs that we have in our own state, namely Duluth, Rochester, also have elected officials that are conforming to the federal law in order to receive transportation funding. Yeah, are we going to see that? Probably not. I don't have a bill that does that. If you remember my first term, I came before you and we talked about a bill that I had that would allow local city councils to have input on the proposed member that would serve on the Met Council. I also have a bill that addresses staggered terms, but I don't have a bill that proposes to put elected officials on there. But it is interesting, and I think a notable anomaly, that the Twin Cities MPO is the only one in the United States that doesn't have elected officials on it.
So you don't have a bill, but are you for it? If a bill came about from someone else that said, let's have an elected official on there, would you support it or not support it?
Well, I'd have to read the bill, but
Okay.
you know, in general theory, yeah, I could support that because it would conform to the federal standard. And I think that if other cities in our state are doing so and are not crying foul and don't think that they're hampered by it, similarly, it can't be that bad of a deal for the Met Council.
Okay. I don't have any more questions. Anyone else? Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim.
We are now to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember Henry to approve the consent agenda. I'm helping you. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business, none. We're, drive safely. 9.1, outdoor sidewalk cafe ordinance, Mr. Merrick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The 2017 improvement project incorporated wider sections of sidewalk in various locations throughout the downtown that could facilitate the use of a sidewalk cafe. In the draft ordinance or proposed ordinance in your packet, a sidewalk cafe is defined as a seating area on public sidewalk adjacent to a permitted use in the central business district where food and beverages sold from the business operating such permitted use are consumed by its customers. So kind of in a regular description of this, we're talking about uses on the sidewalk, not a patio on private property. So in the proposed ordinance, just a summary of some of the pieces. A sidewalk cafe requires a permit from the city. It requires, as a part of the permit process, a diagram of the sidewalk cafe layout and proposed furnishings. The cafe must be separated in some form through the use of fencing bollards from the primary sidewalk. The proposed operating hours are from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday through Thursday, and 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. It prohibits smoking at all times in the permitted sidewalk cafe area. There's general provisions related to lighting, noise, insurance, and so on. It also contains a permit revocation process for noncompliance. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on the proposed ordinance at their February 15th meeting. The Planning Commission did discuss at length smoking in the sidewalk cafe area and supported the existing language that prohibits smoking at all times in the permitted cafe area. The Planning Commission proceeded to unanimously recommend the adoption of the sidewalk cafe ordinance with no text changes. So in your packet is the proposed ordinance, which was prepared by the City Attorney's Office. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions, comments?
Not a question, but a comment. But as I was looking at this and kind of in the discussion that we had in our work session, is keeping in mind that this is for any kind of business, not necessarily our existing businesses downtown, but what may come in the future. Would we want to think about extending the operating hours to something earlier? So something for like a coffee shop where 7 a.m. is an hour and a half or 2 hours into their early morning operating hours.
I don't hate that. I have great respect for coffee shop owners.
That wasn't a planted question.
No, it's
But if we-
it's accurate.
And if we look at it too, if they want to have breakfast out there on a Saturday morning, what's the difference of that as to having dinner later on?
Right, and think, in the summer, it's light out at 5:30.
Do you know if there was any talk of that? You're the planning commission. They didn't talk, you just thought of it?
I just thought of it, yeah.
Got it. I think it's a very valid point.
Me too.
So whoever makes the motion, please add the proposed change to the opening hour. Is that okay to do, Mr. Harris?
What time do you, I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
3:30 a.m.
I'm
6 a.m.
There's no one here. No, I wouldn't
6
do
a.m.?
6 a.m. I'd do 7, but that's me.
Well,
Well, that's fine.
I didn't hear you, sorry.
No, it's not mine.
I was thinking from the time that a coffee shop would open in the summer, there are glimmers of light at 5:30 in the morning. So 5:30, 6.
I think 6 is,
Council
6 is-
decision, you just need to tell us the
This
time.
is scientific.
6 a.m., 6 a.m.
perfect.
That's fine.
So
Bam.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 04-2018 regarding the use of outdoor sidewalk cafes with the amendment that the operating hours be changed to 6 a.m. Sunday through Thursday and then 6 a.m. Friday and Saturday.
There's a motion by Councilmember Johnson
I'll second that.
and a second from Mrs. Roper, from Councilmember Mock. There's a motion and a second. Any further questions, comments, concerns?
Comment. Was there much discussion regarding the smoking, the non-smoking provision?
There was, every commissioner, with the exception of one, said that they were in favor of it. There wasn't so much a discussion of should we do it or shouldn't we do it, but kind of throughout the course of the conversation, everybody kind of went down the line and said, I think it's good.
How many people are on the committee? Is it 5?
It was 5 that night.
So it was 4 to 1, basically?
And it's not that one person voted against it, it's just that one person didn't speak up about it.
Well, this ordinance passed unanimously.
Okay,
Yeah, and the folks who spoke up, yeah, were in favor of restricting smoking.
perfect.
Okay, any other comments, questions? There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving forward on the RV parking and storage, Mr. Merrick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In 2012, the council adopted an ordinance pertaining to the use and parking of recreational vehicles, defined in terms of the ordinance as campers and pop-up campers. The ordinance generally seeks to prohibit the use of RVs as a permanent dwelling, but there's also some provisions as it relates to setback requirements and RVs parked on hard surface. After a review of the ordinance, we found that the existing language stated recreational vehicles may be stored on bituminous concrete or pavers, etc. The proposed ordinance amendment eliminates the ambiguity by replacing may with must, and also provided some additional clarification on the area to be hard surfaced. There was also some additional areas when we reviewed it during when the council reviewed the ordinance during the work session, where may was replaced with must. So those changes are made as requested by the council and are in your packet for your review. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have questions when we're looking at the new ordinance. So it's under the section parking, which is really basically the only section. So it says a recreational vehicle must be parked or stored on bituminous concrete or pavers or on a driveway constructed of 2 inches of Class 5 material, comma, provided that the parking or storage area must be at least equal in size. So does that mean that you can't put pavers just under the wheels, that you are saying the entire length of the vehicle needs to have paved surface underneath it?
Correct.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 06-2018 related to the recreational vehicle parking.
There's a motion by Councilmember Henry. I will second that motion. Motion by Hank, motion by Councilmember Henry, seconded by Mayor Webb. There's a motion and a second. Any further questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, I just had a question.
Sure.
So the last sentence of the parking paragraph, there's another may in there. The storage area may not encroach upon any setback except, just wondering if that's another issue of may versus must.
No.
We're good? Okay. Thank you.
That took a minute.
No, because the use of the word may is permissive, but the use of the word may in conjunction with not is not permissive. It says may not encroach and
Okay.
may not block. So
Got it.
Okay.
You're cool with that then? All right. Any more comments, questions,
Yep.
concerns? Go ahead.
So when we were talking about this at the work session, and we were talking about pavers and things like that, when we had, and Cindy Monroe's not here tonight, but I know she commented on it also. When we're talking about the pavers, and I don't remember if she was leaning one way or the other, but I know that it was part of the discussion, that you could have them, we talked whether you have them under just the wheels, or requiring people to add impervious surface to their lots. I just really don't feel that we should be dictating what people have to park their campers on. The campers, I can understand when it comes to setbacks and setting it back from your neighbor's yard line. I just am not in favor of having to have people add this impervious surface to their yards.
Are you certain that it has to be impervious? Because the way I read it, the only thing in there that's impervious is bituminous concrete. That's otherwise driveway pavers, 2 inches of Class 5, that's all pervious.
And Class 5, now we get rainstorms. Now Class 5 is running possibly out into the street, running here. I just think it's adding more issues than we're having with it. I understand that we've occasionally had some complaints from different homeowners about their neighbors having recreational vehicles parked along. To me, I think it would be more an issue of height and closeness to your the proximity of your neighbor than it is going to be what's underneath your camper. Those are just my feelings. I don't agree with imposing this on the residents.
Any other comments, questions? There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Councilmember Henry.
Aye.
Councilmember Mock.
Nay.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Webb.
Aye. All right, moving forward to 9.3 Carver Station proposed budget modification. Ms. Nash, we mentioned that with the weather, Cindy should stay home, but you've got this, correct?
Yep, thanks,
All right.
Mayor.
Yep.
And Council. The city was previously awarded $826,200 in CMAQ funds, which is Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Funds. How about
Nice.
that for an acronym?
I have that memorized, by the way.
To operate Carver Station, which provides service to downtown Minneapolis and the University of Minnesota for a 3-year period. So there is a pot of money for the actual operations, and then there's a pot of money for the construction. The funding has a match requirement of local funds of approximately $206,000, which may not include fair revenue. As we've learned more about the operations with Southwest Transit and ridership, the city has been seeking to extend that period, not to try to provide routes to downtown and the University of Minnesota that wouldn't be used. We had previously extended that over a 5-year period. The draft budget amendment extends that over a 6-year period. There's a proposed amendment in your packet. It extends the project budget for 6 years. It increases the project budget for line items that have yearly costs, such as maintenance of the Carver Station. It's a decrease in the amount available for contract with Southwest Transit, decreases the anticipated amount of farebox revenue, decreases the overall project budget. However, there's no change in total grant funds received and no change to the total city match required. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
No.
My comment is just a really big thank you to Len Simich and Southwest Transit. We've worked very closely with Cindy Nash. Len is one of the best transit people in the country, and we have him in our backyard, and he's really done a phenomenal job of helping us walk through this project and make it not only equitable to our community, but to the region as well. And so some of this was his doing. Actually getting the CMAQ grant was a big part of, and walking through the process. So this is great, and we'll entertain that motion, but I do want to say make sure that we give a big thank you to Len Simich and Southwest Transit for helping us through this process.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the project budget for the Carver Station operations.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Henry. Any comments or questions? Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brent. We are now to City Council communications. Told you this is an easy one. You guys picked the right one. You tell Madam Porter that we're efficient. That's what you should write on there, efficient. Council communications, Councilmember Johnson, anything?
The only thing that I had in my notes, and it's especially timely tonight as we're getting a ton of snow, is the fire department is asking for help keeping the hydrants clear. And then the fire department, there were 4 firefighters who participated in the Fight for Air climb a couple weeks ago. So they went up 680 steps, that's 31 flights, and I think it was the IDS Center in full gear. So
Yeah.
something I couldn't do, as we all kind of discovered this summer. It sounds like not what you would do for fun on a Saturday morning, but that was Brianne Olson, Jarrett Bowen, Mike Greisinger, and Nate Lindahl who did that. So good job, guys.
Courtney, can you say those names again, please?
Yeah, it was Brianne Olson, Jarrett Bowen, Mike Greisinger,
Doppler.
and Nate Lindahl.
Nate's
Thank you.
great.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great accomplishment. Anything else?
Nope.
Councilmember Mock?
I don't have anything.
Councilmember Henry? Mr. Merrick? Mr. Buddy? Mr. Harris? Anything? Nothing? Just getting into politics right here. It's your last, yeah, come on up. Yeah, please. Please introduce yourself and state where you live.
Mike Senden, I'm from Chaska, Minnesota. Just a curiosity question, where are you with the old Lens and Bus Depot development?
We're in Carver. No, just kidding. Actually, we just met with the developer today. We've kind of put, not a time frame, but just let's take a look at in 90 days. They're having a difficult time finding a buyer for the project of, right now it's been approved for a senior project. What that looks like isn't exactly spelled out, but they're looking for someone to partner with them, and we're looking to make a decision by June 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.